so it's been a really long trip to get here, about 30 hours total. We had some obscenely long layovers. Now it's time for that moment that I think every cyclist sort of dreads in the back of their mind when they fly with a bike, and that is to undo the bikes, make sure that they're in one piece, nothing is broken, and assemble them. So let's see how the bikes fared. All right, moment of truth. Ta-da! So one idea that Laura had was to make a note of how everything was packed. So this is kind of an image of the packing. The idea is if they pull this out, they should be able to figure out where the head tube goes and the rear of the bike. In terms of what else I put in here, aside from the bike, a water bottle, some toiletries and first aid things, bike stuff. So we got some Silka wax, some tools to assemble the bike. Party Pace cycling cap, very important. The Wind Wing Ass-Saver fenders, super awesome travel fenders by the way. Ortlieb seat pack in case we do an overnight trip, we've got a little bit more capacity. Outer layer, kind of mid-weight riding layer, although I don't think we'll need it now, it's actually pretty warm here. Shoes, and the bag of some bike shorts. Other than that, the rest of it is just the bike and all those things. So I'm gonna set up a time lapse and start putting it all together. I'll stop if there's anything weird, but so far it looks good. I mean, the most sensitive point is this over here. This is where the cable hanger would go. Let's see if the bike survives. So some people suggested instead of bagging these in a separate bag, just to re-slip the headset and spacers. So that's what I did. Looks like everything made it okay. So time to put on the scary part of the whole thing, and that's putting on the fork. All right, so we've got the fork installed, seat post is in there. I'm gonna put on the rear derailleur. Then we'll flip it upside down and then deal with the wheels. All right, so already ran into the first kind of issue, or rather miscalculation, and that is when I was disassembling and reassembling this, I was using home tools, but the actual tool I'm using on the road, it's a little tricky to get in here. The knuckle gets in the way, so I'm having to hold the derailleur open while I turn. So that is one pro tip when you're practicing at home to use the actual tools you're gonna use on the road. I'd assume that it would be long enough, and it just barely is, but a little finicky. So one thing we did do was kind of deflate the tires. These are pretty flat, but they're deflated enough so that the bead is still on there. So at least in theory, when we inflate it, we won't need an air compressor to seat the tires. One thing I added that I didn't show in the original packing video was I made some cardboard spacers at the kind of suggestion of people on our Discord. They're thinking that if you use the through axle alone, it's not actually enough to prevent this from getting squished. So I just rolled up some cardboard and made kind of a stiff support for the rear end as well as the fork. Okay, almost there. Last thing to do is put on the chain and the pedals. Other things I brought are some extra quick link as well as an extra derailleur hanger because I'm super paranoid. But this should be it. This and the pedals, and we've got a bike. So moment of truth, the bike is mostly assembled. I'm just gonna run it through its gears, and hopefully we've got ourselves a bike to ride. The sound of perfect friction shifting. So it looks like my bike's okay. It's time to do Laura's bike. It wasn't too bad. The bike totally survived. I know there's some question about this case being not a hard case, but in our experience, it works pretty well. And honestly, at the end of the day, hard case, soft case, it's all really dependent on the TSA agents, right? So I'm super relieved there's nothing wrong with my bike. It's time to do Laura's. Hers has a steel derailleur hanger that's not removable. It's a steel frame. So that's probably the one I'm most concerned about, but I think it'll be okay. So I'm gonna put that together and we'll see. Moment of truth, let's see how Laura's bike is shifting. It's looking pretty good. Okay, so we're getting all the gears, even though this looks like the slightest bit bent to my eye. But again, why you should go friction shifting, kids, why you should go friction. I've got the two bikes assembled. They both came together pretty easily. There you go. Even though these are soft cases, they work pretty well in our experience so far. Now that we've got bikes assembled, it's time to go ride them. So be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff if you want to follow our biking adventures in Girona. We're hoping to highlight some interesting bike shops, find some cool routes, and see if Girona is just for roadies or if you can party pace here as well. With all that said, keep the supple side down.